Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, the former Kano State government and a leader of the NNPP, the new Nigerian People's Party, has accused the All Progressives Congress of losing touch with the harsh economic realities facing Nigerians. While speaking at the 7th National Executive Committee meeting of the NNPP in Abuja, Kwankwaso says the APC's unpopular policies have worsened poverty and hunger in the country. According to the NNPP chieftain, the APC is up in the air, leaving Nigerians on the ground to continue wallowing in poverty. He said regardless of how the ruling party rates itself, the voters and general citizenry agree that they are performing abysmally, especially in important areas of the national life. Well, we're now being joined by Felix Morka, the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, on the fact that, or the sayings that the ruling party are out of touch with reality and at the moment addressing fears that Nigeria might slide into a one-party state. It's always good to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us, Felix Morka.
Thank you so much, Hawa, for having me. Thank you as always.
So you heard the intro, and I'm sure this isn't the first time that you've heard individuals criticize your party for being a little bit out of touch and out of step with the realities of those who are suffering. Some feel that the friends, family, and supporters of the ruling party live insulated lives in which they are unable to see past the comforts of their eliteness, while the rest of the country struggles and is not in a bubble. What do you say to that?
Thank you very much. Now, the comments made by Rabiu Kwankwaso, the NNPP's candidate in the 2023 general election, it's just another, one of those broken records that people think that if they play it long enough, then it becomes the music. It's not the music. I think that every Nigerian who really means well for this country would agree that, we have had a long road to this moment. This moment didn't come from the blues. It wasn't like it was a huru yesterday, and now, we have some challenges that we're dealing with. The difficulties or discomfort that our people feel, which, is highly, I think, understood by the government of today, the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In his speech, he recognized it. He expressed enormous empathy about that, but insists, as we do, that, we need to actually turn the corner. We've had enough of this idea that every president who comes along, just chooses to be populist and implements policies that do not scratch the surface of the problems that we should be solving. Look, what the president is doing today, as I have said elsewhere, are things that previous presidents, his predecessors, ought to have done. Resetting the fundamentals of our economy ought to have been done, 40, 50 years ago. Not today, but every other person who has governed this country simply elected to meet the applause of the moment and postpone the doomsday. This is the culmination of years of, decision making that compromise our ability to, give vitality to our economy. Look, there's no doubt. I hear our people loud and clear. I feel the discomfort as well. Everyone feels it. But look, a time comes in the history of a country when we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves the truth. A country is no different from a private citizen or a family. Sometimes families struggle to make adjustments so that they can get ahead. A country also, not just Nigeria, so many countries, even some of the developed countries, have had to struggle, especially in this period of the world history, struggle with so many situations to reset and reset the economy for progress. That's what we're doing, and I think that what we're feeling right now is momentary. It will pass, And when it passes, and hopefully it will pass soon, I think that our people, we have reason to be, thankful for our country, because we will be better positioned to not just grow our economy, but provide food, enough food, and enough of, the mitigation of some of the circumstances that people complain about today.
Now, Mr. Morka, you talked about the president, expressing a lot of empathy with Nigerians in his Independence Day speech. But he also says in his speech, that the dreams of our founding fathers have been realized and that Nigeria has led the rest of Africa out of poverty. Is it the same Nigeria that a large percentage of its people, over 60% of its population, are living in multi-dimensional poverty? If that isn't a bit out, of touch with reality, then what exactly is it?
No, the president was right on the mark. His point is that 64 years after independence, after the, true labor of our founding fathers, that our country is still standing still and standing tall. Now, make no mistake, whatever assessment you choose to make of Nigeria, Nigeria is still Africa's preeminent nation. We're still the, undisputed leader of this continent. No one takes Nigeria for granted. Look, even the United States sometimes struggle to keep itself from going into, economic recession. Britain verges always on the edges of recession. These are countries that are not just, enormously wealthy. These are countries that have, managed to build, a very viable industrial base that produce enormous value to the economy, for which they, trade with the rest of the world. They are net exporters. We are net importers of, products. Now, my point is that Nigeria going through a period of adjustment and trying to, reset its economy is nothing, it does not give anyone, I think, the license to think that our country has, in some way lost its essence or its place in Africa or in the world. Because what we're going through, even the wealthiest countries go through that. And you don't hear them say because America is having some challenges economically, therefore America is no longer America, it's no longer, whether it's self-acclaimed or acknowledged, leader of the free world. You don't hear that. But this idea that every time we struggle with things that others struggle with, by the way, what we're struggling with is global. It's not exclusive to Nigeria. Every other country, France right now, the history of what's going on in France. France is supposed to be one of the, advanced, countries, rich, advanced countries. But it's also struggling with every sector of its economy, with transport, with energy, with, agriculture. Look, this is nothing new. And by the way, we all know how we got here. I don't want to go into that past, but I want to look forward. This administration has taken very bold measures. Those measures should be allowed to work. We should support the government to see it work. By the way, Kwakwaso made his comments, but I also want to draw your attention that the founder of the NNPP, Mr. Boniface Anebonam, again, warned the likes of Kwakwaso and the likes of Peter Obi and the likes of Atiku Abubakar and the PDP to allow the government to actually focus and do its work. You see, disrupting the polity, preventing the administration from thinking and implementing its policies in the first year of his administration is not opposition politics. That's irresponsible, anti-country activity. We need to be clear about this because, this government has been on for just barely 16 months. And in 16 months, people have made up their minds in the opposition that the country is worse than it was before. This president has a term of 4 years. I think Nigeria should hold still. The opposition should hold still. Focus on their job. If you have ideas that you think are superior to what the government is doing, feel free to speak it out. And let me just say, before I close on this, comment, that, Atiku Abubakar, the candidate of the PDP in the last election, Kwakwaso himself, Peter Obi, I don't know any one of them who did not campaign on the promise to remove, fuel subsidy and to, float the multiple exchange rates, that all economists have a consensus that these twin systems have been largely responsible for the stagnation in the economy. They all said we're going to remove it. Bola Tinubu removed it, and now they are up in arms. I think they need to be calm and quiet, do the job of the opposition, and quit this disruptive behavior that is actually costing us a whole lot.
But Mr. Morka, some analysts are wondering that shouldn't reforms be carried out with a human face? That's the question. He has done what the other candidates also promised that he would do if they had won the election. But the manner in which he executed his own policy is the one that is causing unimaginable pain.
Look, no, you see, I don't, well, that's okay to say that, but, but what I would say in response is that there's no sexy way to take out subsidy and have it painless. This is a system we have built over decades. We built dependency on subsidy. We built it as a country. Now, whenever you build dependency on anyone, whether it's a relation or a friend, and you simply supply them their needs without any, without the real cost to them of the value of what you supply, the day you decide to take them out, or you accommodate a friend in your house for 20 years, and you decide to finally say, hey, my friend, you need to go get your own place and pay your own rent, that day you will have to also explain why you're doing that, because for 20 years you accommodated them rent-free. Now you want them to dip hand in their pocket to pay rent. It's not easy, it's not sexy. I think that we need to quit this idea that there's a cool way to remove subsidy. A system that has become integral to our economic system for decades cannot be removed anyhow you do it without repercussions. The repercussions we're dealing with are inevitable. They are short-term, they're momentary, they will dissipate. It will get better. As the economy and the government begins to invest more, the savings on that, we will see a turnaround, both for the economy and I think for the comfort of our citizens.
Fair enough. For the sake of time, I want to talk about the opposition parties. You actually just said that they have prevented this administration, from thinking. And it seems that all they've been doing is speaking out against what they feel are some of the policies that negatively impact the country and its citizens, which is what they're supposed to do, to be honest. But how can they distract the administration from thinking if all of them are imploding currently as we speak? PDP, LP, APGA, they all have their own issues, but they're still speaking out against this current government and some of the policies that they feel are not that great. Is it that the current government has an issue with receiving criticism while also implementing some of the more favorable strategies for the entire country?
No, it's not about that. Look, let me be clear. I didn't say, well, maybe that's how I was heard. But the point I'm making is that the cacophony of sound that they put out every day is not opposition politics. They simply engaged in incitement, incendiary rhetoric, because some of what they say are not backed by evidence. They're simply playing on sentiments and anecdotes and just mopping up citizen obviously understandable discomfort that people feel and framing it as though they're speaking. When constructive criticism is a part of opposition politics, but inciting citizens to anarchy is not. And I think we need to draw a very clear distinction. Having said that, these are parties, by the way, who come out every day to pontificate about what the administration should be doing and speaking to what the administration they think is not doing. But these are people who, as you stated in your question, cannot have demonstrated an undiluted incapacity to govern their own parties. Now, I don't understand how people, individuals, so-called opposition figures from Atiku to Peter Obi to Kwakwanso, people who cannot govern their own parties, whose parties are imploding and justifiably so, I don't know how they begin to even skirt this question about, how they know better than the party that is, that is governing, that was elected to office by Nigerians, that clearly is showing method. We were in Edo just recently, and even after our primaries, which was very contentious, you saw how quickly everyone involved rallied behind our candidate in order to defeat the same PDP. But every time they lose an election, they complain, they blame APC and accuse APC of trying to impose some one-party state. That's just a figment of their own imagination. We rejected, and we know, and Nigerians know, that that's not the case. We are a political party. We will compete and continue to compete for votes whenever elections are called.
Mr. Felix Morka.
That's our job.
Mr. Felix Morka, it's always a delight, to have you on Newsday.
Yes.
And of course, I recall, that the APC played a similar role while the PDP was in power. But then I guess that's human nature. We do have short memories, especially when we are in power. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
No, constructive role. Constructive role. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.